Why the name Nahanni? Why not the Denny River in the Denny Valley? For centuries, the Denny people would pass down oral tradition that spoke of another tribe, mountain dwellers without honor or culture, savage men with a ravenous appetite to take what was not theirs for sport and daily regainment. The Denny people referred to this mysterious and unknown rival as the Naha. It is said today that after many generations of raiding the lone Denny settlements on the riverbank, acting as villains to the families there, the Naha people inexplicably and swiftly disappeared. No word was given, no emissary sent pleading for aid, no corroborating cuteness was left to the Denny people that could inform them of the reason for the flight of the Naha, and after a lengthy time of no trouble from their foes, the Denny men went to investigate the Naha's dwellings and found them empty, bereft of any sign of life at all. These oral legends descended like loose threads over the years as they were discredited by many, and yet some grain of truth did seem to linger in their midst. Some remained insistent that the Naha tribe was real, and their mysterious disappearance was an albeit welcome but still unsettling omen. What could have driven them so suddenly and completely from their home in the mountains? What could have compelled them to so totally forsake their lucrative plunder of the weaker Denny? Perhaps it is a question we'll never know the answer to. After all, people are lost all the time in the woods. In the later years of the 19th century, brave explorers and prospectors who were encouraged by the previous California gold rush journeyed far into the northern reaches of the North American continent and found great deposits of the same precious metal in the Klondike. Thus began the Klondike Gold Rush, which coincided with the start of the 20th century. Down on their luck men, high-dollar investors and industry barons alike flooded the golden fields of Yukon, thinking it to be a true paradise on earth that only lacked the gates of pearl and the endless songs of the heavenly choir. But as the popularity of the area increased rapidly, cunning men sought ever to find a shorter and less trafficked route to the plains of money and promise. In 1906, a pair of these hopeful miners, Willie and Frank McLeod, decided to try such a route, one whose reputation for danger was only matched by its reward for successful passengers through it. It was the path through Nahanni. As the McLeods waded through the bogs of wetland and hiked up and over exposed ridges in the wilderness, they eventually reached the section of Nahanni they had been dreading most. Pressed in on either side by sheer granite cliffs and with only a narrow beach to hike on, the 200-mile gorge's maleficent shadow stretched before them, beckoning them to enter. The two had heard the Denny legends that spoke of a sleepless evil that dwelt in this gorge, and as they entered into its first few miles and the gentle breeze grew to a steady and unceasing wail, they started to think that those stories might not be all nonsense after all. Unease began building in the heart of each man, but the Golden Klondike's call remained the stronger force, and the two pressed on until the wailing became a background noise and their spirits were calm again. One night, once the McLeods were deep into the heart of the gorge, they set up camp along the riverbank and sat beside the fire to make dinner before sleeping beneath the stars on a clear summer night. It is here where the record grows fuzzy. For, you see, the McLeod brothers were never heard from again. No news of their arrival to the Golden Hills ever reached their family or friends back south, and no settlement to the east or west ever had a wayfaring stranger entered its streets claiming to be one of the brothers. For 2 years, those closest to Willie and Frank waited with ever-waning hope to hear of the brothers' fortune at the end of this period. It became clear to all that they were actually waiting to hear from some unlooked-for third party of how the two had met their untimely end. For long, still no news even of this grisly sword came to the family. Thus, a search party was assembled and sent up by the McLeod family up the same route the brothers had followed, with the goal of learning what had happened to their kin on the river. The search party eventually stumbled on what they thought was an abandoned camp deep in the 200-mile gorgeous granite hallway. From afar, the party assumed it was any old temporary camp set up by some other brave explorer who had recently been in the area, but as they approached the scene, reality twisted its knife before them. Lay the decomposing bodies of 2 men. They were wearing the McLeod brothers' clothes, were surrounded by the McLeod brothers' gear, and were still inside the McLeod brothers' knapsacks. One of the men, the one closest to the fire, apparently died in the last desperate attempt to fight. He was reaching for the old and rusted-out rifle that still lay at his side. But there was a problem, one seed of doubt that tinged everyone to the core and caused them to question whether or not this was actually the McLeod.
The McLeod brothers. The 2 bodies that lay before them were without heads.
Both men had been cleanly decapitated by whoever or whatever had killed them. What's more, the heads were nowhere to be found. Thus it was that the 200-mile gorge took on a new moniker, one whose endurance and resolve grew more grotesquely stubborn as the years wore on: the Valley of Headless Men. The case of exactly what happened to the McLeods has never been solved. Their lives just vanished without a trace, a story that could guide us down the path of exactly how they left and what took them. In recent years, there's been a renewed interest in this case and the other mysterious cases of missing people in the cursed Valley of Headless Men due to the work of a former police officer named David Paulides. David, inspired in part by the McLeod brothers' story and the stories of other missing persons cases he worked on while on the force, compiled volumes of disappearances that, whether finally solved or not, contained elements that made them especially strange. He called them missing 411 cases, 411 being the short code for information. And he found thousands of them. It left him, and has left many others after him, at their wits' end. It seems as though the quote from Arthur Eddington we began the show with is spot on. Something out there is doing we don't know what to all sorts of people in all sorts of places. In order for a case to be categorized as missing 411, some parameters must be met. The chief one being there can be no simple or rational explanation which can adequately explain the nature of the case. These are the fringe, the weird, the puzzling problems that have left the most seasoned searchers and investigators scratching their heads. These cases also have more specific markers, 12 to be exact. And while not every case contains all 12 markers, all of them do contain some. These markers or profile points include the following: the disappearance taking place in one of 52 geographical clusters in the US and Canada, the person going missing in a national or state park or some other government-controlled area, the person following a path that includes dramatic elevation changes, some large body of water close by, the area being populated by berry bushes of different kinds, boulder fields, mostly of granite, being a part of the person's journey somehow, amnesia or memory loss from the victim, missing clothing or equipment, the area surrounding the victim being swampy, the case sending any search dogs into wild confusion and contradictory paths, and finally, these disappearances consistently involve children. The stories found in these case files paint us an uncanny and sometimes gruesome picture of something that is still totally unknown to us. What we do know is that though people go missing in the woods all the time, true, not all disappearances are created equal. Sometimes the facts just don't add up, and our inability to find some lost wanderer doesn't make any sense. Join us in this episode as we explore some of the most enigmatic of these missing 411 cases, while we join with countless others in asking the question, what is really happening in the rugged wildernesses of the world? There seems to be a danger in the world that we have yet to find and name. Let us give our attempt, however humble, of starting to fix that. In the winter season of 1974 to 1975, Crater Lake in Oregon experienced some of the most amazing snow it had seen in years, maybe decades. 5 feet of soft and supple flakes like powdered sugar reached down even to some of the lowest trailheads on the mountain, that southern country skiers flocked to the area with great expectations of adventure in what was shaping up to be the best snow any of them had ever skied in. These adventurous guys and gals would find, however, that the blessing of rich snow would also bring attendant curses with it. People in town started to talk about how the skiing is really great once you get where you're going, but getting there is some of the toughest work
anyone could dream of. After pasting their fiskins onto the bottom of their skis, this would allow them not to slip on the snow while using their skis as a kind of snowshoe to walk uphill. They would take their first steps in the powder only to find that, even with the in-gray surface area afforded them by the ski, they were still sinking up to their waists. Best snow in a decade or no, the prettiest scenery any of the locals had ever seen in their life or no, winter in Crater Lake was still a merciless beast that demanded everyone's utmost respect. But it wasn't just skiers or locals that were attracted to this playground wonderland. Outdoor enthusiasts from all over the country had caught wind of the epic conditions in Oregon and flocked to it in a steady stream for those dark months of the year. One of those otters was a 19-year-old wildlife photographer, Charles McCullough. McCullough was a resident of Virginia, far on the opposite coast from the light snow of the Mountain West, but he was no slouch at all in the outdoors. For years, McCullough had been practicing the art of journeying far into the American wilderness completely alone to set up for a couple of days in one spot to wait for the perfect shot of some unsuspecting woodland creature he could capture in its normal order of life. He had successfully returned from dozens of these trips all over the map. In fact, he had done enough trips in the Crater Lake area in prior years to feel quite comfortable going into the deep folds of white that blanketed the area in 1975. He figured those conditions would make everything quiet, as it would ward off the less experienced locals and visitors. And so, young McCullough hitchhiked and bussed to his way across the state before arriving at a friend's house in Eugene, Oregon, in late January of that year. From there, he hitchhiked a ride with the park ranger to the North Road trailhead and embarked on his solo journey into the bleached white forests atop Crater Lake. He was never seen alive again. About a year and 6 months later, two hikers from Texas were enjoying a fall day in the crisp and high mountain air of Crater Lake. Unfortunately, whether distracted by the nice air they so traveled to breathe, or something else, they took a wrong turn and ended up wandering around in a small and seldom trod small canyon far off trail. They weren't too concerned about their predicament, at least not for long. They consulted a map which showed them an easy path they could take back to the main trail. The detour would only cost them about half an hour if they went back now, so they decided to look around this surprisingly open and inviting piece of forest that had clearly not been seen by many people before them. As they walked around and soaked in the checkered shade and light that poured in through and around the blood-red autumn leaves overhead, one of them thought he noticed something that didn't quite fit out of the corner of his eye. He turned to study the anomaly and found a blue piece of nylon fabric punching up from behind a stone. After going over to it, he was delighted to see that it was a backpack. Perhaps they were not the first here after all. They started to rummage through it only to find some weathered but not very old personal items inside. Some car keys, some pieces of clothing, and a couple of photos and snacks. Thinking they may have actually found something important to someone, they made their way back to the trail and turned the pack in to the park rangers. The rangers immediately wondered if it could be belonged to McCullough. See, after he had failed to return to his friend's house when he said he would, a search operation had been immediately launched. Helicopters were flown overhead where McCullough should have been. Snowmobiles were dispatched and probes were pushed into the ground. Anywhere a disturbance in the snow could be discerned, an army of mountain rescuers had sought diligently for McCullough and had come up with absolutely nothing. Eventually, the search efforts slowed to a halt. Snowmobiles simply could not go more than a few miles past the North Road trailhead where McCullough was last seen, and helicopters found no signs of life anywhere else in the local area. The case was as cold as the mountain. But then those hikers found his backpack and they found it in a most unusual place. When rangers arrived at the canyon the hikers had stumbled into, they were shocked to find that it was 12 miles from the trailhead McCullough had been dropped off at. The snow was 7 feet deep and soft, extremely soft, and McCullough had not been wearing snowshoes. They couldn't even get skiers or snowmobiles up into that canyon during the search. It had been too deep and too dangerous.
Wondered how on earth the 19-year-old photographer with minimal specialized gear had managed to worm his way up that canyon without dying from exposure long before the rangers continued to search the area with a finer tooth comb than the Texans had, and soon found more evidence of Moeller's presence not too far away from where his pack had been hiding. Pants were draped neatly over a log as if to dry out. The belt around them had been neatly unbuckled, and the pants themselves were unbuttoned and unzipped, as if McCullough had very purposefully removed them in the freezing temperatures. They couldn't find any camera equipment, boots, or coat, and they still didn't have a body, but they had the pants, and they were confident the puzzle pieces would be clipped into place soon enough. But then one of the rangers looked into the pants. He looked in and reeled back at what he saw. What he saw were shin bones sitting in the bottom of the pants, broken off near the knees, as if by some incredible crushing force. Beneath the shin bones were the balled-up socks McCullough had presumably been wearing. Inside of those socks, investigators found the pummeled and powdered remains of McCullough's feet. Finally, some 10 feet away, the last piece of Charles McCullough was found in the dirt. The crown of a human skull was seen seating smooth and white on the Kolar's sloping floor. It belonged to Charles. The dental records prove that. What had happened to this man? What force had driven him through snow so deep that skiers and snowmobilers were helpless to get by? What had ripped the rest of his body from his shins and feet? What or who had crushed his feet and stuffed the remains in his socks like McCall holiday stockings? What or who had sent his pants up so precisely? What had relieved the 19-year-old of his head so unceremoniously? Most pressing of all, where was the rest of him? Countless theories have been put forward in an attempt to explain the state of McCullough's remains. They all get close and maybe explain some of the different variables, but ultimately fall short of answering for everyone. His case remains unsolved to this day, and there's little hope of that ever changing. But it turns out McCullough is just one among countless others to suffer similarly unanswerable fates. So we asked again, what untold horror is hiding in the unkempt alleyways of the world? Welcome to Haunted Cosmos, and welcome to the mystery of missing 411. We're glad that you're here.
Yes, we are. Glad that you're back.
Man, one of my favorite topics
Yeah,
because I love the outdoors.
exactly. I knew you love the outdoors.
I do love the outdoors. Fun fact, okay, last week for my son's birthday, I took him camping down in southern Utah in the desert, and I was listening to a YouTube video by Wendigoon, naturally, on missing 411 right before we left. That was not the wisest decision that I've made.
Don't do that. You got to give yourself a couple days of like buffer time of not listening.
The problem, a couple years ago, I went on a solo backpacking trip because my kids were just they were still at that age where they were a little bit too young for real backpacking.
Yeah, more like they were car camped ready, but not.
Coupled even 20 pounds on the back ready to go. So I went up in the high Uintas up to like Wall Lake, Crater Lake kind of area. I think
Is this the story with the chipmunk?
This is my favorite story. Okay. It's awesome. And I had been listening to all sorts of this stuff, like Missing 411 documentaries about it, that kind of thing. So I'm traveling down the path, and it's like a couple mile hike into this beautiful lake surrounded by cliffs. And it was like a Monday, so no one was there. It's just me. And of course, I've got my little companion, my Glocky Glock.
Yep.
I'm strapped to my backpack strap. And I'm constantly thinking like I'm about to die. I get to the thing, I set up my camp, have a great time, do some fishing, do some, even jumped in the water a little bit, which is dumb when you're by yourself in glacial waters that are like 40 degrees. It was like getting to the end of the season. So like late summer, early fall, like that trend.
Yeah.
It's still like pretty warm in the sun. It gets up to that 75 during the day at that altitude because the sun is so close to you. And then it gets down to like 40s at night, maybe a little lower. So I'm setting up camp, beautiful spot. Like there's these ledges, stair steps up where you can camp looking out over this lake. It's beautiful. And there's one spot where there's like a perfect cliff down, diving cliff you can fish off. It's like deep right away. Beautiful spot. Set up camp. almost see, I saw very few people, maybe like 2 people the whole time.
That's awesome.
Well, I go to sleep, obviously terrified, like that I'm going to die, right?
Naturally.
I'm not going to wake up either a serial killer, a Bigfoot, a missing 411.
Yes, or you roll off into the lake and immediately drown.
I have been known to sleepwalk quite a bit. So this is really stupid.
You picked a wise spot.
Yeah, like I've slept walked.
No, this
that
right.
walked.
Yeah.
How did you go? Is slept walked. Yes,
That's good.
out the front door at one point as a child.
Oh, that's
I've been doing sleepwalk. If
your parents had to put all this locks
like
from the outside.
from the inside of the house, I would pee in everything, pee in the fridge, pee in the garbage, like in my sleep. Don't remember it.
He still does it actually.
I don't do it. So I finally fall asleep. I sleep fitfully all night. I wake up in the morning and I'm kind of rustling around in my sleeping bag. I'm like, cool, I made it through. And all of a sudden, I start hearing like, I hear some skittering. I got a cliff on one side, cliff on the other side, a path down into the woods on the other side. And I'm like, this is it. This is how I die. I'm thinking like, Lord, take care of my kids. I don't have enough life insurance or any of that. Okay, I had some, but like $500,000 isn't to go far with 6 kids. It was like 5 kids at that point.
It's hardly enough to buy like a minivan now.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, I'm not kidding you, I felt something clamp onto my head because I'm in a mummy bag.
Yeah.
So just the crown of my head is kind of sticking out. And I'm like, what? I'm leaping out. I wish it was on camera so bad. I am ready to fight to the death. I am not going to go gentle into that good night.
Good for you.
Okay? It is I'm not doing it. It felt like a clawed hand kind of thing on my head. It was a chipmunk. A chipmunk, and people feed them in these camping spots.
So
they come out. We're like, you got to pee in it for me. I'm like, no, I'll shoot you.
Did you shoot it?
No.
Did you try it?
No. Did you fire it? No. I didn't even touch my gun because I was like, it's a chipmunk and it jumped on my head. I don't know if they knew I was a person or what. Or there came back in the day. We used to put a peanut on a piece of fishing line, and we try to reel them in because they would like get it and then they'd fight you to it. It was really funny, but yeah. So that's my almost missing. I almost went missing 411. That's like that Evan Stevens special where they were like stranded on some island or something. Yeah. Remember that? And they all had to split a peanut 3 ways, and they started fighting over this stubby little callous tail. Man,
about that. I was trying to not get Albert Osman
by Bigfoot in my sleeping bag. Hey, you almost got Eloise Lindsay.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it anyways. Well, wait, I have this story. Do you have a good story?
Yeah, do this here.
Yeah, I mean it's not as good as that. It's not as good as Hold Back. So I went on a solo it wasn't even really a backpacking trip. It was like a super short hike into this little camp spot in Pisgah National Forest, which is in Brevard, North Carolina. And if anyone's ever been there, you know that it's like rainforest level canopy. It is so thick.
Didn't one of our Bigfoot stories happen in Pisgah National?
Yeah. I think in a previous episode. I mean, there's so many Bigfoot stories. I think one of them did. But go ahead and it's a beautiful place, but it's such a thick canopy, and it's just in Appalachia. And so, you know, it just feels creepy because Appalachia is old, full of fairy spirits that have fallen anyway. So
the Reform Pub right now is like so mad at you.
I don't care
for saying that.
Do you think I care about the Reformed?
I'm just pointing it out.
So anyway, parked the truck, hiked in, set up my tent, and it was all going really well. And then immediate and schedule thunderstorm.
Oh no.
It was brutal, like sheets of rain.
There.
Oh yeah, it was brutal. And so I was like, great, that's fun. Like my tent is not doing so good. I like threw the rain fly on as it was raining. So it was already full of water, which was great.
Prepared.
Exactly. I had the rain fly, but there was no rain in the forecast for days.
No, but everyone, that's such a rookie mistake because Appalachia, it rains every day in the summer.
And
it's like a rainforest.
So anyway, I've said this already. Hey, look, we admit it. Okay. All that to say, the rain stopped after like 10 minutes. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to go for a little hike. It'll be fun. Come back, get the fire going. We'll have a good night. I start hiking, and I kid you not, this had never happened to me before. And I grew up going backpacking constantly in this area. It was super comfortable with it. Knew what I was dealing. I got this feeling like I was about to get God. Like I was about to die, like in the
demonic or stuff.
Yeah, just this like I was turning around. I was acting like Joseph Stalin, dude. I was so paranoid. What a deep cut. Yeah, he's paranoid, and I was like
turning around constantly, looking at, I thought I was hearing voices. It was really genuinely weird. And so, dude, I turned around and ran back to the tent, packed up, and I went and slept in a Walmart parking lot.
But did you tell everybody, like, yeah, great camp?
No, I told everyone exactly what happened. I said, guys, that was messed up. I don't know what it was, because it was like, that didn't I wasn't like that. I was always fine in the woods. But dude, you get comfortable in an area and you know the sounds. Like, and when you don't feel comfortable, you actually should pay attention because maybe something's up.
Well, it's like when I first started backpacking, so we would camp I'm an Eagle Scout, and our troop would go every month.
Just got to throw that in.
Dude, I'm an Eagle Scout. But our troop, it was a military based troop, so we were hardcore. We would go every month, a 2-night outing.
Nice.
And it was winter, spring, summer, fall. So we'd snow. I mean, in the high winter, and the winter with pulling sleds, that kind of thing.
Did you ever snowshoe?
Yeah, we'd snowshoe in with sleds on. We were the dogs. Like, it was awesome. But my dad, I literally pulled my dad one time several miles just because he was like wanted to see if I could do it. But you kind of get used to the first couple nights. A deer walks through the camp, or you hear squirrels in the brush. Sounds like a moose when you're out. But you get used to it, and you're like, oh, I know what that is. But sometimes it happens. I mean, it's a total.
I've had the same thing.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're just like every sense in your body for no discernible reason is telling you something, or I am about to die. Like something is wrong.
I mean, about to be eaten.
Yeah, or serial killed, which is my biggest fear, by the way. The people, by the way, like the stories on what's the Pacific Rim Trail and what's the really long one, the
Pacific Crest Trail,
CT, and then there's another one that's really long.
Well, there's like Great Divide, Appalachian Trail.
I mean, Pacific Rim is a movie. There's there's the white trail around the Grand Canyon. Now there's this it's like a 1,000-mile hike you can do.
Some of them are that.
But anyway, there's all these stories of people, like, especially first of all, ladies, why are you out doing multi-day backpacking trips alone? I got news for you. If you want to find yourself, I can already tell you what you need to do. Get married and have babies. Someone else is going to find you and eat you, okay? But you hear these stories from people who, like, I was out in the woods and then all of a sudden these group of people,
Yeah.
like feral people,
Yeah.
like came out with robes on, or like, you know what I'm saying?
Dude, so there was a story actually at the Valley of Headless Men.
Yeah.
That is just the first. Oh, there's tons more. Are we going to get into more of them?
No, I will dare tons
Well,
more. You can sign up for Patreon. I do a deep dive episode on it on our Dusty Town.
But like the last story is this guy, he was looking for his friend who was lost. And the last night of the search, he got woken up in the middle of the night by somebody who looked humanoid, but was not human, telling him like, don't keep searching. And he said, like, look down the valley. He gets up and turns around and looks down the valley, and coming up are these like giant humanoids with long white robes.
Get out of there, dude.
Wow.
They're Wengal Valians.
It's just what it is. So anyway, I started blasting. Like, you guys now know my strategy. That's it. When I'm in the woods, like someone on the trail comes up and they're like, hi, nice to see you, Fall Magazine.
Yep.
Doesn't
And
matter.
a reason for missing 411.
Just been magnamping people in the woods. I'm totally kidding. We kid. We don't advocate murder. We don't do that. But you do hear it. It's we got to start getting into this. But I think one of the big factors in these missing 411s, obviously it's fairies. Besides fairies, though, is people.
Yeah.
Dude, there are some flippin' evil. Okay. Sin makes you so warped and evil, like serial killers. We got to do our
Even like, dude, seriously, like generational sin that leads to these feral people in Appalachia, which they exist. Like we know they exist. Like that family in Canada that would kill people and feed them to their pigs.
Yeah, or totally happened. Sonny something Turney. It was like a Scottish story. This guy. I mean, I wish I could remember his name. Whatever. He and his wife went into the woods. They had a bunch of kids. Their kids had a bunch of kids together. Okay. And they were cannibals. And they would this is back in Middle Ages, they would take travelers and just kill them and eat them.
It was like Hills Have Eyes in Scotland. For real, dang dude. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Guys, here at Haunted Cosmos, we have impeccable hygiene standards. I mean, just look at Ben here. The man would never forget to wash his hands. Wait a second. Wait, what? Is he washing his hands with seed oil? Wow, what a normie. With seed oils like that, pretty soon, he might start voting Democrat. But what if I told you that your household soap might be just as bad as Ben's canola? That's right. Many cheap industrial soap products are nothing more than a big old bar of seed oils hormone-disrupting chemicals, and other shenanigans. That's why you need to check out our friends at Indigo Sundries. This wonderful Christian family business has been making their cold process, all-natural soaps with olive oil and coconut oil in small batches for more than 20 years. These soaps are totally free of artificial colorants, parabens, petroleum, silicone, SLS, musks, phthalates, or other such nasties. Head to indigosundrysoap.com today and check out their 5 or 10 bar deal. That's indigosundrysoap.com. And that link is in the description, of course, for your convenience. Couple of housekeeping things. First of all, welcome to this episode.
Yeah, glad you're here.
Obviously, we're excited about this topic because who doesn't love like a mysterious camping story?
I love camping.
Let me give you a guarantee right now, just because I know how it is. I can't handle these kind of stories. I turn them off. We're not going to include any stories in Missing 411 where kids die.
No. Okay.
Not at all, because I know they're out there. I know they exist. I cannot handle true crime stories like that. Missing 411.
Me too. I've like all these people that I love. These little
We're also not going to do it. We're not going to do any stories of where it's like women being abused. Absolutely not. We're not doing any of that. None of that. Obviously, some of our stories include people dying, like what's named Charles. But if they're adult, it's only different.
It is, though.
People get eaten by bears sometimes. So just know that our stories will include kids, but don't let worry you. We're going to just ruin it all right now by telling you they all make it. But it's not even the fact that like, do they make it or not? It's still like, how did they get there? Just wait, just up. Other housekeeping.
Yeah,
Patreon chat. Yeah, dude, we have so many good reasons. First of all, if you just like what we do and you want us to keep doing it, against all the haterade, against all the mermaid denying haterade, there's so many good reasons to sign up for Patreon. We got Dusty every week.
Yeah.
Ben's doing a 40 to 45 minute Dusky Town, expanding on some of these stories that don't make the episodes.
We'll say 30. They're really good, and
that's like this is about every week of the year except a few holiday weeks.
Yep. We're dropping those for patrons. Every tier patron gets that.
Yep, all patrons get it. The top 2 tiers of Patreon are Sasquatch photographers and cryptid hunters. I like those mixed up. They get early ad-free access to our main shows, so at least a few days early. This season, I'll admit, I've been a little bit stretched, usually a week. And then
usually a week. Sometimes said next season we're even going to try to get it earlier.
All patrons get ad-free access to the main episodes. That's right. Once the main episode drops, our lowest tier patron gets access to it, and it's ad-free. So that's great. And the other thing is, so we got a conference coming up, guys. That's the Building Christendom Burroughs Conference, Ogden, Utah, June 6th to the 8th. So this will be the last episode we've released before the conference. At that conference, Ben and I are going to be doing a live episode of Haunted Cosmos with live music being played underneath this. It's so much fun. It's going to be amazing. And here's the thing. Some of you guys, you should come. First of all, you can get tickets in the description, newchristendompress.com/conference. But there's 2 other ways that you can get on this one. One of them is you can buy a live stream ticket, which is the same link, newchristendompress.com/conference. When you go to the tickets, there's a live fee that we'll have of the main sessions, including that Patreon.
I think it's $30.
It's like $30. It sounds right to me. I think it's $30. But here's the great deal. All of our Patreon channels at New Christendom, Haunted Cosmos included, we're going to just give all of our patrons access to that live stream link for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So not just like the Haunted Cosmos one.
So sign up for Patreon, support the show, and you'll get a live stream ticket. Like you could sign up for the $10, $6 a month tier and get a live stream ticket.
And then stick around.
Yeah.
Because I think you'll like it. We really tried to provide value. But for this episode specifically, we're going to do a giveaway.
Yes.
For the first 20 people that sign up for any level of our Patreon, on the day that this episode drops, we are going to send them a shirt that I think is either I think one of 2 things. It's the most cringe thing you've ever seen, which is where I took my first reaction, or honestly, that's a great shirt and I want it. Either way, for the memes or for the legitimate wearing, you're going to want it. Can I say one thing? Yes.
Neither of us requested the shirt to be made.
No, we did not.
Nor did I. No, it was being made.
I knew it was being made, but I wasn't like, voting.
And nor ever would I.
But let's show them. Let's make sure. It might get in frame. It might not change.
It would back it up to the like and text.
There we go. I don't know. If you can't see it, we'll put a clip up or a little really poorly done graphic. Imagine this. It's Brian and I's face looking off into the stars.
Yeah, like Simon and Garfunkel.
And it says Hansel Ghost.
Godsmans at the bottom.
If you like it, great. If you don't like it, again, do it for the memes. Yeah. But guys, first 20 patrons that sign up the day this episode drops,
you are going to get a free shirt.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to pick your own size and everything like that.
That's right. Get it shipped right to your door.
Now, with that, do we have any more any housekeepings? I don't think we do.
Yeah, here's the thing.
One thing that I will say is that yet again, we come upon a danger in the world with missing 411, just like with Mothman, just like with Bigfoot. Could be some overlap, but yet again, in all of our extensive research, we have not found a single incident of someone being missing 411 while using Indigo Sundry sound.
That's a really good point, Brian. It's an important thing to touch on, Brian.
So use the discount code and the link, 10% off. And thank you guys. I think we might have mentioned this, but great Christian company that we love to support. They have been able to go full time.
Yeah.
This is now their big thing. And frankly, a lot of it is thanks to our listeners.
Yeah,
so thank
100%.
you. We're going to have subscriptions open for them soon. So yeah, whether it's feral people, Bigfoot, right, evil fairies in caves, the hypothermia, or their natural predators, they can't smell you. Indigo Sundry Soak will protect you guaranteed from all of them.
If you're using Cambrian blue clay soap, they just can't smell you. It's so true. The beef tallow, they can't smell you.
They smell the beef and they think, I don't want to mess with a cow. Cows, I'm not messing with a cow.
Nope.
Get the horns, miss with the bully, get the horns, come for the king, you best not miss. Let's talk about some of these stories.
Yes, let's do.
Just in this natural transition we're doing now. Let's talk about some of the big theories.
Yeah.
So obviously everyone wants to figure out some solution that answers all these strange stories.
You know, you have natural things like the things I just mentioned, predators, exposure, hypothermia can explain a lot of the missing clothes. And
Yeah.
sure, people taking them off. Why would someone take their clothes off in the cold? Well, hypothermia makes you think that you're really hot, so you start shedding layers before you die, right? It's a paradoxical undressing is what they call it. So there's things like that, but then there's also the more preternatural idea, like maybe Bigfoot is to blame for some of these. Maybe the feral people are to blame for some of these. And I put those in the preternatural category because they're just that creepy and gross. And then genuinely, okay, because of the fact that almost all of these cases happen in some sort of government land, natural parks, state parks, wildlife management areas, and we know that all of those lands are over America's cave systems, the fairies, what's the connection between the caves and the fairies? Because the caves go to fairyland.
I see.
Right? You've got to keep up.
I see.
The caves go to fairyland,
You didn't
hollow
I see
earth.
what you're-
I see. However, Mike, are you supposed to be an earth enjoyer?
Well, let me say.
We thinking I show? Don't be Scooby-Dooning.
Let me just say, first of all, guys, it's confirmed. See our published works, but you know, but legitimately, people do. It sounds crazy, but people have like this whole. You can go as far down the conspiracy trail as you want and as far towards the natural explanation. And the reality is that a good chunk of these cases are going to be something natural. I'm just going to say this.
Yeah.
Animal predation.
Yeah.
Exposure. The woods are a big place.
I'm going to say this, though. The last story in today's show, or one of the last ones, I'm going to be vindicated.
Okay. Well, you'd have all these stories where some of the things that make it tough is that you have cases where you'll have like a group hiking and someone in the middle of the group who's maybe 50 yards from someone else just vanishes, just turns away in a well-known hiking trail, and then nothing is discovered. And 5 years later, they find like a tooth and 200 yards from where they disappeared, where they had searched for weeks with hundreds of volunteers and professional rescuers. And just, it's stuff like that that makes you go, look, I get natural things happen. I get animal predation, but animals typically don't, even like a big coyote or a big wolf or a bear, it's pretty difficult for that to happen silently in a well-known, and you not find evidence of it immediately when you start the areas with searchers' blood or, you know, this body.
I'm not making the claim. I'm not disagreeing with you, actually. I think the vast majority of these things are somehow natural. That's all I'm saying.
And I totally agree with that.
The ones that aren't, though, and I think there are some that aren't, it does seem like there's a kind of lure, again, I'm going to use that word from the last episode, where there's like this infrasound thing, or there's some kind of lure that like tempts people away from the trail.
Yeah.
And they do it so silently and nonchalantly, as if it's like, yes, of course I would go over here. Or of course I would go way up this mountain.
It's completely nonchalant. There was one story about 3 climbers on Mount Rainier, which I didn't include in this show. And they were all 3 very experienced climbers. They were climbing up the oldest winter route of Mount Rainier.
Well trafficked?
Yeah. They had done it many times before.
Okay.
And a group of 3, the first 2 guys get up to the next bay position, and they're kind of locking in, resting, waiting for their buddy, Eric, to finish his climb. And they're trying to pull in his slack. Well, they keep seeing the rope just not move. And the more they pull in the slack, the more it comes in with no resistance at all. They finally pull it all the way up to them, and it's just got the figure 8 knot with nothing on it.
Wait, it wasn't cut.
No, it wasn't cut. It wasn't untied. It was the figure 8 for climbing. You had a double figure 8.
Yeah.
So it was a single figure 8 with all the slack out the end untied. So it was untied. They freak out. They're like, "What the heck?" They think something's wrong.
Yeah.
And they're on an ice cliff. Like it's not a gentle wood slope.
Yeah.
Exactly. They go searching, and then they get the park rangers involved for a national park. They end up all they find in an ice cave, like 200 yards to the side of where they were climbing, Zumka's gear, and they never find his body.
How do you even get there?
That's the thing is, I'm like, you have to solo traverse, and you'd have to let out a lot of slack to do that.
Well, if you
who
just
unties it, I mean, if he was on Baya, he would have
Yeah.
had to let out a ton of ropes. So he goes off Bay.
Yeah.
And the thing is, doing that on its own, when you're on like that steep of a slope, with number do that is really hard and scary.
Yeah.
And he didnn't say they didn't hear anything, and so then he has to do a solo traverse, untethered. Like free solo across to this ice cave that he built. It wasn't a natural ice cave.
Oh, it was like chiseled out?
Yeah. And he goes in, sets up some of his gear, leaves, and they never find him.
Okay.
And that's where I'm like, yes, obviously the cause of death is probably natural. It's probably hypothermia or exposure, but why did he leave? That's the thing. That makes absolutely no sense. That always gets me is I'm like, the cause of death can be natural.
Yeah.
Hey, but why do they get separated from the group? Why do they go off trail? And then why are they found in places that like make no sense?
Are we going to do the one where, they find his stuff in like some food right below him?
I'm not going to give anything away, dude. I'm not going to give. He has asked me 3 different times, are we going to do this story? And all of them have yes. They're in sequential order of the next ones that we're
when
doing.
Dude Hem at 100, we should revisit Missing 401 and just do 3 hours of Missing 401.
We could do.
Imagine doing a 6-hour show where we
could go all day.
And
you could do for 6 hours.
You
dude.
need all of the. Maybe we should do a part 2.
We got to do a
You
part
should
2.
do another episode.
Yeah, we'll see. It might be the next
Yeah.
one. We just keep going. It might be the next one. It might not be. It might be next season. You let us know in the comments. We have not comments on most podcast platforms. It's here somewhere where there's comments. Oh, also for the people that aren't watching on YouTube, sorry about the whole shirts thing. I just now realized that you have no idea what was going on. It makes sense. If you're just listening this long, and if this episode is like 2 minutes longer, like how are they dumb enough not to know most podcasts don't have video? Listen, we are dumb.
We are dumb.
But we're also looking in cameras.
We were dumb.
So we're done.
So we have a witty banter, so we can get more than one camera angle.
That's right, dude. That's so true.
I'm going to go into the story about Keith Parkins. Let's hear it. With nothing to show except for a local mineral hot springs and lovely riverside mountain meadows, nestled into clefts and grassy knolls high in the western air, and a national forest close by too, Ritter, Oregon is a place that probably doesn't belong on the minds of anyone who doesn't live there. But something happened long ago that made that not the case. And while the few who live there might wish it could have been something good and fun and exciting like a military hero in some old war that the nation discovered to have been reared in Ritter, people rarely see their full wishes come true in this world. In 1952, the Parkins family was settling into their quiet and self-sustained life in Ritter. They tilled the fields, sowed the seed, reaped the grain, and shuffled the livestock day in and day out, prayerfully hoping at all times for good things to come of their labors. Alan and Edna, the father and mother of the 3 Parkin boys, sought to do good by their people, and so took care to make regular trips to visit family across town in between the back-breaking tasks demanding their attention on their own property. On one such visit to Edna's parents' cattle ranch, they had gone to celebrate Easter. The 3 boys, 2 older brothers, and then the baby of the family, Keith, decided to take a walk down to the ranch's barn to play around outside of the house, but also a bit out of the cold and patchy snow on the ground. They went and played, and that was that. After a while, Edna called the boys back in, and they made the short walk back up to the house for lunch, or 2 of them did. The 2 older brothers walked in and greeted their mother warmly. She turned around to see them and immediately noticed how Keith was not with them. Of course, she asked where the 2-year-old was, and his brothers said that they had left without him because he had trotted around to the other side of the barn to play by himself just before their mother had called.
Unsurprised at the lack of concern these small boys had for their even smaller brother, she had them take her with them back to the barn so they could find Keith and they could all have a heart-to-heart about looking out for one another. Only when they got to the barn, Keith was nowhere to be found. It had been only a few minutes, but the lad was totally gone. Though the pasture land surrounding them on all sides was cut short for winter and was free of trees for hundreds of yards, no movement could be seen anywhere. Little Keith Parkins had vanished into thin air. Edna was distraught and charged in a mad rush back to her parents' house to ask for help looking for her baby. Neighbors were called in from all over Ritter. A line of Lynn was formed, each man within speaking distance to the one adjacent him, and a rudimentary search was sent out from the barn as quick as could be done. 200 people had come to help, and help they did. The search went without pause all through that night and well into morning of the next day. Eventually, to the great belief of Edna and Alan, someone found little Keith lying face down a full 12 miles away from where he had set off. His hat and coat lined the snow beside him. The searcher ran to him, but was crushed to see that the boy was not responding to his calls. He turned him over and found him stiff as a board from the cold, but against all odds, he was alive. He was rushed home, and it was warmed, fed, and watered with the utmost care and tender affection by his mother. Soon, she realized that her feeble efforts weren't enough. Keith was flown to a hospital and eventually made a full recovery from his ordeal. His face had suffered serious scratchings, and his clothes were torn as if they had been ripped by barbed wire. Keith didn't remember much, but he did say he could recall where the scratches on his face came from. He said a little cat had done it to him, that he had scared the creature and suffered the minor backlash of a startled tabby in the woods. Unless we lose sight of just how bizarre this story is, let us recap quickly. Keith Parkins, a 2-year-old boy who was barely learning to speak, traveled 12 miles overnight over rough terrain in freezing temperatures and under 19 hours at all of it without half of the clothes that would be necessary in the conditions. This case has lingered for so long in the minds of so many that a movement was put together to try and figure out how it could have been accomplished by the boy. Les Stout, the well-known outdoor expert from the hit TV show Survivor Man, sought to follow the same path as Keith in the same amount of time. His route was formed based on Keith's starting point, end point, and interspersed tracks that they had followed between the two. But after 24 hours of full focus and effort from the full-grown man, Stout had not come anywhere close to reaching the finish line. Now, this story is similar to another one. Again, only 2 years old, who was faced with a trying ordeal that he somehow overcame. The only difference is that this one happened in the year of our Lord 2010. Rowan Griffin was with his family at his grandmother's house in Richmond, New Hampshire. Her house was situated in a wide piece of yard that lay just across the street from an expansive state of wildlife management area. With cousins and other extended family present, there was no shortage of other kids for Rowan to play with. So while the parents were all inside talking, they didn't think any of their children were in danger outside without them seeing how there were at least 10 other kids at various ages out with them. Surely if something were to go wrong, one of them would holler. At around 3 p.m. that day, Rowan was seen chasing a cat, feral or domesticated remains unknown, around his grandma's yard and narrowly into some of the surrounding woods. The kids thought nothing of it. Later, though, when it was discovered that Rowan was missing and nobody had any idea where he could be, people wondered whether or not the toddler may have chased the cat across the street and into the dense woods of the wildlife management area nearby. By 4 p.m.,
a professional search had begun, led by dogs and police crews. The area around the home was swept clear for hours with nothing to show for it. Finally, in the dead of night, at 1:40 a.m., one of the searchers stumbled upon a little tennis shoe that belonged to Rowan. With this find, dozens of other family and friends flooded in on ATVs and side-by-sides to scour the nighttime woods for the boy. A small team of 5 of these friends decided to act as a sort of splinter group and explore an area about 3 miles away, one they knew well from hunting and one they feared Rowan might be in. It was a swampy area on the opposite edge of the wildlife management area from Grandma's house that was especially perilous. Bogs and quicksand and flash floods were a serious risk there, and so the family wanted to get ahead of Rowan if he was following some dangerous path to that place. Once they got there, they were astonished to hear the faint cries
of a child. They began yelling Rowan's name in the dark of the early morning. They yelled and yelled, and finally they heard Rowan yelling back. He had heard them and still had the strength to direct them to his voice. 11 hours after the search had begun, and 3 miles away from where he had vanished, Rowan was found, clinging to a tree, in the midmost of a pond that sat in the swampy marsh. When they waded through the water and reached him, they found him understandably rattled. He was shaking and asking for his mother, and apparently in shock. But the strangest part was he was completely dry. He had been clinging to a tree in the middle of a pond, but the 2-year-old was completely dry. When asked what had driven him so far from home in such odd circumstances, Rowan remarked that the cow scared me. The cows. Could cows scare a boy into such a superhuman flight? Maybe, but not in this case. Reports say that there were no cows anywhere near the immediate area.
Are you flipping kidding me? Dude, here's what people don't appreciate. Both of these stories. Okay, dude, people, all right. Everyone's like, maybe it's not a cow. Maybe it was a bear, here's the deal.
Let's hear it.
What 2-year-old do you know that can swim across a pond? Well, okay. No. My 2-year-old Tyrell Ian is capable of feats of superhuman size. Tyrell, if you listen to this, he's not 2 years old. I believe in you. He's not 2, and at 2, you could have done this. No, I'm just kidding. No, I know a lot of 2-year-olds. I am a 2-year-old enjoyer. 2-year-olds are hilarious. People love 2-year-olds. They're so funny. They are so weird. They constantly follow you around asking you questions. They're the best people on earth, which is why I refuse to include stories where anything bad happens to them. And yet, there's a reason we don't send them to the Olympics on the swimming team. They're not that coordinated. It's because they're not that good at swimming. They're good at falling over, skinning their knees. They're super good at all those things. They're good at, also, have you ever been on a hike have you ever been on a hike?
Yeah, through woods.
With no trail, by the way, with a 2-year-old,
Yeah.
okay? You're just carrying that, frankly.
3 miles in 11 hours. Pretty good clip for that.
Yeah, that's actually unbelievable. And it's swimming through a pond dry. Okay, first of all, dude, he was wearing unironically, like, I'm just going to say it, okay? I'm just going to say it. Let the Reformed pub be mad. Something carried him to that island.
Yes, there is almost no doubt, because it's not enough time in that condition for his clothes to dry.
No, and for him to completely dry.
Yes.
And there's just not another way that he could have got there unless he was carried over the water.
Yes.
So something had to carry him, keeping him above the water. I don't know how deep the pond was. Like, it could have just been like a 2-year-old, the small kid pool.
Yeah. It could have been knee high on me.
2 feet deep is enough for it to be chest high on a 2-year-old. 100%.
Dude, come on.
So my point is, this is insane. He was carried there by something. People don't appreciate how weird this story is. So the most normal explanation, and I'm just saying, like, if you want to get away from all the weird stuff, a fairy, whatever, is a person doing it to him. But the thing is, why? Well, like, the only thing I could possibly think about is some dumb 12-year-old was playing a prank and, like, helped him. But the 2-year-olds aren't good at subterfuge. He would have told them, like, he would have been like, it was Jimmy. He carried me here. He told me not to tell. That's why people don't use 2-year-olds as spies in espionage.
It's a good point.
You know? Because they're not that good. You don't send 2-year-olds. You don't parachute them behind enemy lines and say, come back and tell us what. It's not because they don't lie. It's because they're not that good at it. No, they would not. They'd be like, I was sent here to spy on you. Do you have any crackers? Do you have any trash trucks?
You have trash trucks. I love trash trucks.
So a Bigfoot carried him there. Anyway. Okay, there's another theme, and then we'll talk about the first one.
Like cats.
Cats.
The cats are evil.
They will lure you into swamps and try to kill you.
I, for one, love cats.
I love cats. There's another theme. Uncommon, rare, Benjamin, Garrett, Dubau, Labable, yeah.
Right. No, not rare. Dubay common.
No. And Techie's a common.
Low beef limiting. This is one of the best episodes for banter we've ever had.
Hey, people love it or hate it, dude. The other theme of this, that what's this kid's name?
He didn't have a name.
No, yeah, he did. Or did he?
Are you talking about the one with Les Strout? No, the one we just talked about.
Rowan Griffin.
Or Rowan Griffin.
Grandma's house. Not just for your fairy tale. Okay, let me tell you something. We're going to talk about some more stories, many of which include trips to Grandma's house, our grandmother's fairies in the world. We'll tell Joe Webbin. Voice time will tell. You'd have to zoom in and be in an elaborate chair for no reason.
It is pretty accurate. Okay, did a lot of that guy and Star Wars ticked really close
Now we'll
over my
tell you.
vacation.
Our grandmother's evil fairies in the world. That's exactly how it sounds like.
No, but it is weird that a lot of times it happens away from home, and it's kind of like a pseudo home or home adjacent, but it's not a home.
It's not a home.
Maybe that's important. Maybe it's all coincidence. All right, Keith Parkins, dude. So the best explanation that anyone can come up with is cougar. That it was a cougar that carried Keith Parkins, like kind of, you know how the cougars will carry their young by the nape of the neck?
Scratched.
And it's like they're gentle. Yeah. That for some reason a cougar snatched him up thinking it was a baby cougar. Like scratched him, carried him intermittently because he had footsteps throughout the journey for 12 miles, and then just like set him down. And it was like, oh, this isn't my kid. Oops. Whoops.
For a dumb cougar.
Also, it's 12 miles as the crow flies.
Oh, yeah.
12 miles, that's important. It's a really important point. A straight line on the map, which could not have been what he did. Les Stroud, like the footprints gave us some idea of the wandering, but Les Stroud was probably even idealizing it and making it a shorter path, and he still couldn't do it. It was most likely closer to 15 or 16 miles.
Yeah.
If you've never seen Les Stroud, dude, there's two categories at Survivor shows. There's Bear Grylls. And if you're watching Bear, I love you. You are a beast, my guy. You are so cool. Way cool. You're awesome. I've read your autobiography. I have too. He probably like a Christian, or I think like love your kids, faithful to your wife. He'd stay being a vegan, and now he's like super into eating meat and relic job. Great. Don't take this as criticism, but there's Bear Grylls over on the one side, which is like dramatized for TV. Bear Grylls goes out in the wilderness. First thing he does, he's like, now, if you want to survive, you're going to have to free solo this giant parapet 200 feet off the ground, and we're going... And
absolutely no reason.
We're gonna, and they said the word rim-rocked at least twice in every episode. Now, you're going to want to make sure you don't get rim-rocked, because that would be really disappointing. I might have to drink my own pee. But then the camera immediately... but then the camera pans over, and there's like Holiday. And on the other side of the spectrum, there's Les Stroud. And Les Stroud is like... I'm going to carry I'm Canadian for unprovoked.
I'm pretty sure he's Canadian. He's like, which is one of the worst nationalities, worst countries that you could be a part of. Like just CC Justin Trudeau. Yeah. So, and then he gets like, they were so mad that we said rude things about Black Lives, about BLM, Black BLM, but they're all evil. I was like, well, I don't want you to watch it. You think BLM is great. Like, you're not smart enough to watch this show, BLM. You could probably barely speak English. Okay. Anyway, so there's Les Stroud. He's like carrying 60 pounds camera equipment, actually surviving totally by himself. He's having to like set up a shot and walk away from it and then go back and get his camera, weird like bushcrafting music. And then he plays his harmonica like Chad King. Les Stroud, you see this show, come on, Action Exchange, man. We'll make an episode where you just come on and talk about the Bigfoot thing you did. Dude, I miss the golden age of Survivor shows. Man vs. Wild, Bear Grylls, great show, loved it. Survivor Man, dude, great show. The Discovery Channel Monday night lineup, the Survivor Man, unbeatable. Mythbusters, Man vs. Wild, Survivor Man reruns, dude, it was amazing. The Survivor Man Bigfoot series too, so good, dude, so good. But Les Stroud, I said all that just to say that Les Stroud is a serious outdoorsman. Oh yeah, like he is the kind of guy that if he can't do that trail, it's not impossible. It's not even like an average adult trying to do it. It just means that there's no way that the child walked that, right? Which again, Rowan and Keith, right? Keith Parkins say, yep, you bring these two together, you have two stories here. Some mysterious force, either an animal behaving in ways the animal's ABE, like a cougar picking him up, putting him down, right? Putting him back up. Maybe it is my guy. Pick up again. Maybe it's the post-millennial hope being played out. Yeah, the kid will be stepping over the adder's den and playing by the cobra hole, Also, maybe not, but maybe not. Maybe it's some other weirdness that's going on that's still a ways down the road. It's most likely a very, very far. So you just look at these stories and you say something did take this child and transport this child elsewhere. And the through line between both of them, because the easiest natural explanation is actually a person doing it. Yes, but in both cases, a 2-year-old would not conceal that. And here's the other thing. I know 2-year-olds. And here's in the Keith Parkins case, Les Stroud couldn't do it. How is some potent kidnapper who probably has a beer gut and egg on his vest? I'm saying it would have had to be like in a vehicle. There's no way. But then the footprint would have had tracks in there.
you have how could but no like tracks from a side by side or an ATV. It just doesn't make sense. That's why I love this topic, because I actually don't have a theory. Like I don't even we can the theories was whatnot. It was but we just don't know. That is so wild to me. The thing is the reason that I semi-jokingly say fairies, and I didn't really get that vibe from either of these, except for maybe the tree in the pond thing. Yeah, true. But is because I'm like, yeah, but nothing else can do it either. Like, yeah, give me anything. A man, sure, maybe some of these, but again, it just goes back to this. Why did they leave in the first place? Oh, a kid's chasing a cat? I'm sorry, what kid is chasing a cat that diligently? At 2 years old, they don't do anything diligently at 2. And the other thing, mischief. And the other thing, this kid's playing at a barn. He suddenly gets a desire to walk 12 miles away, get out through. By the way, I mean, Ritter, Oregon is in the mountains, and it's not very well developed even today. Like, this is difficult terrain that we're talking about. Okay, we got to keep going, dude. I'm thinking changelings. I'm thinking that these are like the fairies thought I'm going to do a changeling thing with this, but for some reason it failed, you know? Like, the thing I like about that explanation is that it answers everything. And because you've used the scientific method, exactly. Hey, Sherlock Holmes said this, and so did Captain, not Captain, but Spock, whatever his prefix was to Spock. I don't know. Once you've eliminated everything else, whatever remains, no matter how unreasonable, is the truth. Guys, let's keep going. I think we need to jump in. When I say guys, I mean like you guys listening, because we're going to just keep going with Aaron Hedges now. Yeah. I'm going to start talking about Aaron Hedges, and it's going to be great. And then eventually, Brian's going to continue about it. The thing is, you'll know that it is me. When I start talking, you can tell that I clearly am not comfortable in this chair. Yeah, it's not that comfortable, guys. The sacrifices we make for you being seated in a slightly uncomfortable chair, all this, we're like, Lester out. Okay, keep going. If you delete this, I walk us. And Lester out walks so we could run, and then we ran so that our kids could fly. Okay, imagine Haunted Cosmo 2052 is going to be lit, because it's going to be like Ari and Abner, or Ambrose may have more Riz, and Abner will be like, and then the trash truck took the mandicle. He's never going to learn how to talk. I'm just kidding. Okay. It is said that a long time ago, while the first European pioneers were pushing the boundaries of their settlement in America further west, a caravan of wagons inched across the rugged landscape of Montana. The small group of intrepid and desperate families had at that point enjoyed the supple green hills and evergreen forests with the characteristically wide hallways of old pines. They pictured themselves riding the eastern plains of this massive oasis until the very end of their days, feasting on the rich bounty of crop and cattle that was sure to be found there. Then one morning, as they continued their march west, the leader of the train spotted a dark island of mountains rising steeply out of the ground far ahead. Still fuzzy in the morning haze, like some impulse of sound in a quiet mausoleum, the mountains sent an uncomfortable shiver of doubt through the whole party. Their journey was not bound to remain so easy and inviting for much longer. They waded through Big Timber Creek, the eastern boundary of this short and dramatic mountain chain's foothills, and decided to try the south route, a route that hugged the mighty Yellowstone River to go around them. That day went quite well, excepting the odd feeling of premonition that each man felt, but that none spoke of. Nothing went wrong. The sun was out, the wind was low, and the mountains were at least a marvel for the children to look at. So innocent grown-ups know better than to think of mountains as nothing more than interesting features in the ground. But as night fell, disaster fell alongside it. A small raiding party of Indians fell upon the caravan with aggression that felt personal to the pioneers. They pitied none and showed no mercy. From the mountains had come a storm of depravity that killed every man, woman, and child, with barbaric shouts that filled the clear night sky with a cancerous collusion. That's right, they killed them all save one. One of the women was able to break away from the circled wagons and flee in a mad frenzy into the very mountains that had dispensed her family's doom. She had just watched her husband and children die at the hands of an enemy she did not know existed. The moon lit her up in a crazed radiance and drove her deep into the veins of the black cliffs and daunting peaks. There she swore to haunt the tribe that had taken everything from her until the day she died.
Thus, the Isle of Mountains, sitting like a faraway sidecar from the Rockies, received its name, a moniker it proudly wears still today, the Crazy Woman Mountains, or more commonly, the Crazies. In September of 2014, Aaron Hedges, a local resident of Billings, Montana, went once more into the jagged canyons of the Crazies with two of his hunting buddies. They were looking forward to this trip, make no mistake, but it wasn't really a novelty for them.
I said they were locals. They did trips like this all the time. This was just another amazing weekend with friends, in a landscape that, though treacherous and intimidating, was also extremely rewarding for them, and as much as it could be, comforting too. The trio trotted into the familiar canyon on their horses, who were also very used to being in this exact spot and on this exact route, and started passing here and there on switchbacks that took them up out of the canyon and over one of the saddles on the Crazies. They then followed more switchbacks back down the other side and breathed a sigh of excited serendipity at once more being in this otherworldly bowl of turquoise lakes and lively forests, surrounded on all sides by high walls of granite. They knew the smells and sounds and sights that greeted them well. From the vantage point of the Interpeak saddle, Aaron could even see some of the places where he had placed gear caches throughout the hidden valley. A rock face here, a pond there. He had set up stashes all around these mountains and had filled them with gear just in case anything ever did go wrong. Fortunately, these caches would come in handy on the strip. He had secretly always wanted to actually need to use one. For during their second day, hiking through the hunter's paradise, the pack mule the team was using got spooked by something and kicked, sending Aaron's sleeping bag rolling down the mountainside and into a deep, cool war that he wouldn't be able to climb into. So once the camp had been set up for that night and everyone was settling in, Aaron grabbed his GPS walkie-talkie, his gun, and a bow, and started the short hike up their trails to the nearest cache that he knew would contain an extra sleeping bag. It was only a few miles away, and despite his friends already knowing where it was, he linked their GPS with his so they could easily see where he was should he fail to return in a couple of hours. Everything should have gone just fine, but as you may expect by now, Aaron was never seen again. Thinking Aaron may have decided to spend the night at the cache instead of hiking back in the cold and dark, his friends didn't worry about his absence. Instead, they continued on their routine for another 2 days. Remember, they knew Aaron, they knew his competency, and they knew his comfort level. His spending a couple nights alone in the Crazies just because he wanted to was not unprecedented at all. But on the third day, after he had left, they finally decided to consult the GPS that had been linked with Aaron's to check his location. They found, to their horror, that he was pinging miles away from where they expected him to be. Apparently, he had left the cache far behind and had somehow crossed leagues of impossible terrain all alone and with hardly any gear. A bit frightened, they packed up camp and left the wilderness to go and alert Aaron's wife, who in turn alerted the authorities. The search began immediately. Helicopters with thermal and infrared cameras were deployed over the area where the men had been, where the GPS had shown Aaron to be, and everywhere in between, with wide boundaries on either side. GOG teams hiked through the rocks and deadfall for hours, leaving the trails and then joining them again, to no avail. Dozens of rangers and SARG professionals split into massive teams of human chains in order to walk through the area with a sharp eye peeled to the ground for any sign of the lost hunter. On the second day of the search, a small team stumbled upon a makeshift campfire. The strange thing about this, recently used in rudimentary camp, was that it was on the way to the day's search area. In other words, the camp was found in a spot that had already been searched the day before, so it was sincerely new, having only been made the previous night there. In addition to the fire, they found pieces of a backpack, an empty water bladder that would have fit into said backpack, and a pair of hiking boots set up neatly side by side next to the ring of rocks, so recently painted with smoke and charcoal. The boots belonged to Aaron. And that was all that would be found for Aaron for the next 9 months. In June the next year, a hiker stumbled upon another backpack near the edge of the Crazies. In it was found a cell phone, a hunting vest, some clothes, a hunting license, and a bunch of granola bar wrappers. The phone and license confirmed the pack to be Aaron's, but where was he?
A short distance from the pack, perched on a rock that lay at the top of a hill overlooking a grassy field, the same hiker found a thermos and an opened energy drink. Man, the thermos, it was later confirmed, was Aaron's. The strange thing is, this hill that overlooked the green field overlooked something else too, a main road, one of the few in the area. The road was about 2 miles from the rock on which the thermos and can were set, and the field itself wasn't some wild grass and flower mountain meadow. It was the field of a rancher whose ranch house sat just off the hill, even closer to Aaron's position than the road. And yet still, no Aaron. What would drive a man to see salvation and turn the other way? After 9 months alone in such a harsh environment? Well, perhaps nothing drove him to turn around. For another year later, in August of 2016, a skeleton was found half buried about a half mile down the hill in the direction of the house and road. It was, of course, Aaron. He was just a few hundred feet away from the ranch house, but that was still too far. Given just a skeleton with most of the flesh, muscles, and organs decomposed, no cause of death could be determined. His bones, at least, were fine. Here's the thing. Clearly, this man suffered hypothermia.
Yeah. I think he took his boots off at the fire and then left them.
Yeah.
You know?
Something was driving him crazy. Hypothermia makes the most sense, and I don't know if this one is really like that mysterious. It's just weird.
It's weird, and it's super eerie that he was about 100 feet away from being saved.
So weird. And he just collapsed and died. But he had taken the time. Like, okay, he had eaten. He had granola bar wrappers. And he had a thermos with like something warm in it. And an energy drink that he had just been consuming on the rock.
So weird.
So he was nourished enough. Like he'd been sitting up there apparently taking his time. And then just abandoned his stuff, walked down the hill and died. It just bizarre. Like that is, I remember every time I've heard that story, I've thought, okay, I think I know like what happened, kind of.
Yeah.
But none of the why makes sense. The other thing too is the friends found him and his GPS, which maybe he didn't have anymore.
Yeah.
But it had been only 2 days. His GPS was pinging really far away. Like really far on the other side of the range. They were like, how did he get over there so fast? And why? Okay, so the search immediately starts. The next morning is when they find that campfire close to where his friends had been.
Yeah.
So how is his GPS pinging over there the day before, after only 2 days of being gone? And then how is he apparently back right next to where the searchers had been, making a campfire and warming up his feet and then just leaving it? Just like the chronology, the geography, it doesn't make any sense. It's not like there is a reason why this is a very famous missing 411 case, and it's because none of it makes any sense at all, right? So even if you say, which, you know, it's probably what happened, like, okay, he left his GPS at the cache, and, you know, some animal came along and took it and ran with it, and that's why it was so far away. Okay. But why did he leave the cache? That still doesn't explain why he left. He had everything he needed. And he was a very experienced, and he knew where other caches were. Like he could just gone to others and been fine. Nobody that goes to this length of knowing an area and caching gear and things like that with that much experience makes the decisions that this person made under normal, like it's almost as if all of a sudden he lost his mind.
Dude, the crazies.
And here's the thing. I want to apologize to our listeners. At the beginning, I said very earnestly, like, we're not going to have any stories where anything happens to the kids. And then all of a sudden, but it was Ben's reading, and they needs killed everyone, all of the kids. I was like waiting.
Kids and these print knives that couldn't just lie and said all of the men and women. That would sound weird. I would have just said, if I were writing it, knowing in the future that I was going to promise that, said everyone died.
Yeah, but we would have still known.
But we would have known, but I like it.
Here's the other thing. I don't like that they died.
Hey, what does that mean, all you engineer or math majors out there? Yeah, they do the direct delta function
Every once in a while, I find a word in something Ben has written, and I go, surely this is an obscure Tolkien reference, like the Chrysorgon Peaks. But it sounds, that's great. I'm there for that. Sounds good. Or it's like the hypotenuse, dude, there's another Pengle Hill. Everyone open their ears. Also, clear. Clear is a word. We use that word twice now in this episode. People they climb, put it, the people that do calculus and people that climb, put it in the comments respectively. You know what the direct delta function is. You know what
it's a term.
Some small subset of the human population might potentially know a word. If every writer thought like that, we wouldn't have good writings. I'm not saying that I'm a great writer, but I'm saying if Milton was thinking, oh, I want some middle schooler to be able to easily read Paradise Lost in 50 years, Milton wasn't inventing neologisms based upon advanced calculus. Shakespeare was inventing words all the time, but not based on advanced, based on something. They were words that context clues could help you understand. You need highly specific technical experience to understand. Okay, listen, this is all essential to the episode here. Here's the deal. I'm right. We all agree. Okay, Ben's right. We all agree. First of all, this is crazy. This is another one where I'm like, I don't know what, I kind of think I know what happened, but it's one of those where I'm totally comfortable saying clearly his cause of death was totally natural. Yeah, but why did he do the things he did? That's what makes literally no sense at all. Even if he got hurt by an animal or something, it still doesn't make sense. So yeah, I don't understand this one, and it's a mystifying Missing 4-1. I think let me go take us to, there's another one here that I think is a crazy story. Eloise Lindsay, and this is another one that's going to take us back to Appalachia.
Yeah.
And going crazy. Here we go. The Appalachian foothills are peppered with trails that are all around the more gently sloping mountains of the East Coast. This network of trails like spider webs attract masses of people from all over the Southeast and from all walks of life every single year due to the nature of the climate. In the Southeast, they tend to be usable year-round, and so though the traffic grows more thin in the winter, it is rare that you go on any length of trip here without running into someone else. Yet, the forest of Appalachia feels closed in, isolated, and lonely to the utmost. Ancient, sure. The nature of the terrain lends itself to these feelings with an almost rainforest level of canopy of trees in the summer that gives the whole trail a sense of dark doom. To the hypnotizing mirror house of bee and gray forests in the cold season, the trepidation that thousands of people experience in these woods each year is no surprise, but it's also more than just the natural terrain. If you spent any substantial time deep in the Appalachian wilderness, you know what we mean. One feels some long dormant senses flare up, there it is, akin to the unstoppable and fearful urge to turn around and check who is following you when walking alone on a dark sidewalk in a rough part of town. Something just doesn't feel right. Locals know this feeling all too well and chalk it up to the old forest being home to some of the darkest shades of evil the world has ever seen, the kind that lead people into obscene deeds of malice and vile will. Nonetheless, people still go there all the time. In fact, they love to, and Ben would know he was raised in those woods. Why is that? I wonder. In 1989, a 22-year-old college graduate named Eloise Lindsay decided to take a solo trip into the foothills trail system of Table Rock State Park in South Carolina. She wanted the space and quiet and time to clear her head and figure out what ought to be next for her in life. In her sense of independence, she failed to consider the role that dark providence might play in those dark woods. She began her trek well enough that this wasn't the first time she'd done this after all, and was soon carrying a lot of ground at a good clip. The monotony of the steps gave her space to think about life, and think she did. In fact, she thought so hard and focused so keenly on the things that she had left behind in the city that she failed to notice herself drifting further and further off the main trail. She only realized her mistake when it was too late. Eloise Lindsay was hopelessly lost in some of the strangest land in the world. As panic welled up in her gut, her heart began to race at a sprint. She spun around and looked, almost hyperventilating. She looks her some way back where she had come, and a rush of dread that overwhelmed her. The trees seemed to spin around in the opposite direction from her, turning an easel carousel looking after her decay and degradation. It only took a few minutes for her to start running wildly through the woods, yelling for help and praying for some miraculous salvation. For her trouble, no help came. Eventually, her adrenaline started to wear down. She grew tired of running and leaned against the tree for support while she caught her breath again. It was then that her plight went from worrisome to downright horrifying. She heard steps and other odd movement in the copse of trees close behind. It was not the steps of an animal, she could tell. It was bipedal, walking boldly like the steps of a man. Only when she jolted over to look in the direction of the sound, the steps abruptly stopped.
Why would someone do this? Could they not hear her screaming for help? Just before, she kept staring into the dark pocket of cover and thought she could hear the faint hiss of a whisper. Another light step here and the shuffler of the leaves there sent her reeling with fear. Was something stalking her? What sort of person or people, because of the whispering, would be out so far in a place like this? She had heard of the Appalachian feral men before, but had never considered them to be real until that moment. She dove into the brush close by and prayed that they would pass her by. According to her, they did not. She heard the steps get closer as time went by. She heard the whispers taunt her. Like ghosts in some scared child's periphery. She began to run again, and she ran and she ran. She ran for 2 weeks, resting in whatever decent hiding place she could find in that time. She saw the rescue helicopters above diligently searching just for her, but she dared not try to build a signifier or do anything loud to get their attention, lest her attackers find her scent again. She heard dogs howling in the evening, the dogs of the search parties, but they were to her the hounds of hell, hot on her heels for the feral men's gain. She kept running. Finally, 2 weeks to the day, she stumbled onto a road and was soon rescued by a passerby. She swore to authorities that she had been followed by several threatening feral men for those weeks, but they could find no evidence to support her claim. They closed the case, saw Eloise nurse back to health, and moved on to the next gruesome job that met them in the dark and Gorgorolian, but Gorgorolian, Gorothian, whatever, Gorgos.
I know what you're talking about.
Gorgos.
Yeah.
Of the mountains of Tear. It's just, the thing is, you're this deep in an episode, because I'm like,
this is rich.
Sometimes you miss them. That was a good reference. I'll give it that one. All right. The Duran Duran is even better, though. Now, here's the thing. This is another one of those where, okay, I can understand the freak out because actually I can't. What I can't understand is getting lost. People that have been in Appalachian know that the path is not something that you just like stumble off of. It's very thick. Because it's thick.
Yeah.
It's not like open pine forest. It's not like in the West, it's much easier to get off. It's very thick. It's jungly. There's a lot of underbrush and thickets. It's hard to get through, right? And so even that, I'm like, you must have been really focused on something else. But then to immediately decide that the solution was to turn tail and like run in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me. I believe her.
She thought, whether it was real or not, I believe she thought that she was being chased. And the thing is, we do know that the feral people exist. They've been found in Appalachia before. Ben actually was rescued from a community of feral people. It's not true. My parents are wonder people. Actually, they're very wonderful. That's not true, but they were rescued. No, this is another one. It's just, so you hear this with kids hiding from searchers and rescuers all the time. It's one of the things, actually, I remember in Cub Scouts them telling us, like, you know, we were to go out in the woods. Hey, if you get lost, you might feel scared. If you hear someone searching, yeah, don't hide. Make sure you yell loud, and because it's an instinct kids have. But adults, they don't do it without a reason. And the thing is, like, she saw the helicopters. She knew that the helicopters were searchers looking for her. The reason she didn't do anything is because she was scared that it would tell the feral people where she was.
Yeah. But then she heard the dogs.
Mm-hmm. And the thing is, if you're out there and you saw the helicopters, it would really take a lot of genuine fear to think that the dogs weren't search dogs, but were instead, the feral people search dogs, which is so terrifying. Which even that, like, why would they even have those? So anyway, it's just another one of those really strange cases where it's almost like there's something in the woods that makes people crazy. Like lose their minds.
Well, that's even like, think of the story that I told from my own camping trip to North Carolina. Like, that's what it felt like. Mm-hmm. When I left, I felt fine. And I actually thought, why didn't I leave?
Yeah.
That was like, why don't I just go back? That was dumb. But I remembered how it felt, and I was like, no, that felt off, like he was wrong.
There's a really early Astonishing Legend episode where they interview this retired doctor who goes up hiking by himself all the time and camping, and he tells the story of hiking up off the like highway in this canyon or whatever. He goes up the mountain, he goes into this valley, and it's just weird. Like, he can't explain it, but everything goes wrong. He can't get a fire lit with like all the right supplies. He can't get to the creek to get water. There's like, all of a sudden he just has this overwhelming feeling as the sun goes down. I am not supposed to be here. And he starts like stumbling. He drops his it's like a movie. He drops this flashlight and it breaks. And
So he's stumbling down the mountain and he's like feeling this whispers and like something's right behind me and driving me out down this trail. And then he gets to his truck and he like drives down the road a mile because he has to sleep somewhere. And it's like the feeling's gone. He's totally fine. It's like that area of paralyzation that was a John Keel in the Mothman thing.
Yeah, the zone of fear.
He like if you took one step forward, it was horrible dread. One step back, he felt totally fine. This is akin to another story from the Valley of Headless Men. Actually, a much more recent story where this team went up. They weren't prospecting for gold or anything. They were just travelers going through because it's a national park.
Yeah.
But a woman got separated from the group, and they searched for her for a while. Quickly realized they weren't going to find her, and so they went back to town and hired actually one of the Denny ancestors, trackers, like the Denny tribesmen still do a lot of animal tracking.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So they hired one of the Denny trackers to come out and try to help them find her.
Yep.
For some reason, instead of, they didn't ask the Mounties, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, because they're horrible at finding people in the woods, and everyone knows this. Genuinely, that's like the reason why no one asked that. In common Canadian lore, that if you go lost in the woods, don't ask the Mounties, that they'll get lost looking for you. So they asked this Denny tribesman to help him out. He comes out and he's doing his thing. He's been out there for multiple days. And one night he wakes up to like wild shrieking, which by the way, I'm already done. Wild shrieking in the night, get me out of here. He gets out of his tent and not to be crude or anything, but he looks across the Nahanni River and sees a woman crawling on all fours, like Gollum, up this really steep rock face. Totally, like she has no clothes and it's freezing cold and she's like wailing while she's crawling up the rock face. And he was like, I found her, but I am not going near that. So he leaves.
Did they rescue her?
No, but she clearly had like lost her mind. It is strange because a lot of it, one of the only things that explains some of these events is the person who's losing their mind.
Yeah.
Like full psychosis for almost no reason. And it really does make you wonder if that's why, again, we have fun with the fairies thing, but let's just say for a minute, maybe there is some kind of spiritual presence in some woods, whether you want to call them fairies or something else. I really don't care. Demons. Yeah. Demons they would be demons in the story of the man who is chained and he keeps breaking the chain. She just delivers him. It says the result of his deliverance was that he was clothed and in his right mind. He wasn't in his right mind during the. So